Chapter 3. Desire, the starting point of all achievement. Some of us seem to accept the fatalist position, the fatalist attitude, that the Creator accorded to us a certain position and condition, and therefore there is no need trying to be otherwise. Marcus Garvey. No one need fear death. We need fear only that we may die without having known our greatest power. Norman Cousins. In everyone's life there comes a time of ultimate challenge, a time when all our resources are tested, a time when life seems unfair, a time when our faith, our values, our patience, our compassion, our ability to persist are all pushed to the limit and beyond. Some have used such tests as opportunities for growth. Others have turned away and allowed these experiences to destroy their hopes. Have you ever wondered what comprises the critical difference in the way we respond to life's challenges? Society has been fascinated by what triggers us to behave the way we do. We would all like to know what sets certain men and women apart from their peers. You may have heard the story of the dehydrated man in the desert, who is weak, sun-worn, and exhausted, and after spotting an oasis miles away, summons unknown inner reserves in an effort to reach his goal. Obviously, those who stamp their mark in this world are men and women who are motivated by the desire to achieve. Unless you want to taste the true riches of life, health, love, freedom, and prosperity, you will forever be among those who have tried but remain by the shoreline, mired in their failure. You must desperately want to succeed. You must be consumed with an encompassing, burning desire to reach a definite objective. You must be obsessed with an overwhelming urge to win. When Julius Caesar landed his army in England, he was determined to take no chances of a possible retreat. He wanted to show his troops that their invasion meant victory or death, so he burned his ships before their eyes. His objective was not a hope or a wish, but a pulsating desire that transcended everything else. That day we sailed westward, which was our course, were the legendary words that Columbus jotted in his journal day after day. Hope might rise and fall, terror and dismay may seize the crew, but Columbus, undaunted and resolute, pushed due west and nightly added to his record. Napoleon knew there were plenty of great men in France. However, his adversaries failed to recognize the might of his steadfast desire that was to ultimately shape a new and glorious Europe. It is impossible, said staff officer when Napoleon gave orders for a daring plan. Impossible, replied the great commander. Impossible is the adjective of fools. Many leaders in their march into greatness have burned their bridges behind them. Cut off from all sources of retreat, they left their troops with one choice, either win or perish. A burning desire is the real source of genius. We face life with only two options, either move or be moved. The battle-tested and determined individual will stand out from the crowd. The man who desired to be rich. Hailing from humbling beginnings, S.B. Fuller was once identified as one of the wealthiest black men in America. In his long life, Fuller owned businesses throughout the country. A fearless believer in individual initiative, he denounced welfare as the enemy of motivation. Fuller dedicated his life to achieving his dreams and helping others realize theirs. He lived by the phrase, "Nothing comes from doing nothing." Fuller was born in Wachita Parish, Louisiana in 1905, the oldest of 8 children raised by tenant farmers. He was driving mules at age 9 and quit school after the 6th grade. By the time he was 17, his father had left and his family had moved to Memphis. For the next several years, he struggled to make ends meet. As he drifted from job to job, something was gnawing inside. Why are some people wealthy and others poor, he constantly thought. Unexpectedly, he found the answer in his mother's dying words. "We shouldn't be poor, S.B.," the frail black woman said on her deathbed. "And don't let me ever hear you say it's God's will. We are poor only because Father has never developed the desire for anything else." It was his mother, among all other influences, who refused to accept this hand-to-mouth existence, though it was all she had ever known. Fuller's dying mother knew there was something drastically wrong with the idea that her family, living in a land of plenty, was barely getting by. In a split moment in time, her son became the sounding board and the recipient of her years of wisdom. The few words passed on to him became deeply ingrained in his mind. Almost immediately they changed his life. Fuller wanted to become rich, and his goal soon became an obsession. There's an important rule that governs the principle of desire. The rule states, you can be, have, or do anything that you want if only you want it hard enough. In other words, you must eagerly long for something, not a mere wishing or wanting, but a fierce, eager, consuming hunger that knows no defeat and demands satisfaction. Just as the great oak, as an embryo, sleeps within the acorn, success begins in the form of an intense desire. Out of a strong desire grow the motivating forces that cause men to embrace hopes, initiate plans, develop courage, and stimulate their minds to action in pursuit of a definite plan or purpose. There is nothing behind desire except the impulse through which it may be transformed into action. Anyone who is capable of stimulating his or her own mind to produce intense desire is capable also of the achievement of that desire. Though no one in his family wanted to be wealthy, Fuller conditioned his mind with such intensity that he was compelled into action. The attainment of his goal became his sole driving force. After hitchhiking to Chicago in 1928, Fuller held a variety of jobs, but mostly he sold. He sold life insurance until he discovered he could earn more money peddling soap. Said Fuller, a local magazine printed the names of Chicago's highest paid executives. In 1934, the president of Metropolitan Life earned $50,000. On the other hand, the president of Lever Brothers, a soap company, made 9 times as much. At that point, I quit selling insurance and started selling soap. So intense was Fuller's desire that he took his last few dollars, purchased a case of soap, and began selling toiletries door to door in depression-laden Chicago. He sold soap for pennies a cake and pitched his products for as long as people would listen. Repetition is the mother of knowledge, he quipped. In 1935, Fuller boasted he would one day own his initial supplier, Boyer National Laboratories, who many times refused to give him credit. A decade later, he made good on his promise and bought the struggling company. During his years as a salesman and entrepreneur, Fuller gained the respect and admiration of his peers. By setting aside nearly every penny he had earned, he managed to save $25,000, which he used as a springboard to buy other businesses and expand his empire. What was Fuller's secret? What power, known or unknown, allowed him to leave the masses of the impoverished and join the ranks of the wealthy in the teeth of a depression? Listen as he unveils the key. I knew exactly what I wanted. I had to be a millionaire. With only a 6th grade education, Fuller began reading for self-development. When you know that you don't know, you've got to read. His favorite books were the Bible, Robert Collier's Secret of the Ages, and Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. One day Fuller read a single fact that changed his outlook. Of the 4,043 millionaires in America then, 3,954 had not finished high school. This helped fuel his desire. If they can do it, so can I. Within 5 years, Fuller had dozens of salespeople and a small factory. He had bought real estate, a drug company, a department store, a string of theaters, and 2 black newspapers. And yes, he had become a millionaire. It is important to note that S.B. Fuller started life with few advantages. However, he chose a goal and armed himself with an intense desire and set out to reach it. There is an immense difference between the chances of the man who begins with a thorough understanding of himself, with a resolution to win at all costs, and the individual who sets out with no particular purpose or ambition, and no firm determination that he will reach his objective. There is all the difference in the world between The prospects of a man who has committed himself to his life's purpose without reservation, has burned all bridges behind him, and has taken a secret oath to succeed, has vowed to see his proposition through to the end, no matter what sacrifices he must make or how long it may take, and the man who wavers and goes about his objective half-heartedly. Not everyone would care to be an S.B. Fuller or any of the other achievers highlighted in this book. Not everyone would choose to pay the price of success. To many, the riches of life are different, but the choice remains yours, and yours alone. The principle through which S.B. Fuller got his millions is still alive. It is available to you. Whether success to you means material rewards, as it did to this penniless, uneducated black man, or advancing in your chosen field, whatever it is that you choose will only come through intense desire. Complacency is the enemy of achievement. It makes all the difference in the world whether you undertake a proposition to win with clenched teeth and a resolute will, having prepared for it thoroughly and determined at the very outset to hit your mark, or whether you begin your task with indecision and indifference. It is widely believed that the man who has the fortitude and the right mental attitude will, sooner or later, reach his objective. Now, have you knocked on the door named desire? Will you accept the torch of opportunity this great nation has to offer? Are you willing to study the principles spelled out in Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice? If you answer yes, chances are this lesson is for you. The power of desire and motives. Basic motives, moved to action, are all prefaced by the desire for a specific objective. Men and women of ordinary ability become pillars of strength when aroused by desire, stimulated by action. Bring a person face to face with the possibility of death, and amazingly, he or she will exhibit all kinds of physical strength and prowess. The following story clearly illustrates this point. An old African sage, wise and influential, lived on the side of a mountain near a lake. It was common practice for the people of the village to seek his advice. The old man spent many hours sitting in front of his small hut, where he rocked in a crude rocking chair made of branches and twigs. Hour after hour he sat and rocked as he thought. One day he noticed a young African warrior walking on the path towards his hut. The young man walked up the hill and stood erect before the sage. "What can I do for you?" the old man said. The warrior replied, "I was told by those in the village that you are very wise. They said that you can give me the secret of happiness and success." The old man listened, then gazed at the ground for several moments. He rose to his feet, took the boy by the hand, and led him down the path towards the lake. Not a word was spoken. The young warrior was obviously bewildered, but the sage kept walking. Soon they approached the lake, but did not stop. Out into the water the old man led the boy. The farther they walked, the higher the water advanced. The water rose from the boy's knees to his waist, then to his chin. But the old man said nothing and kept moving deeper and deeper. Finally, the lad was completely submerged. At this point, the wise man stopped for a moment, turned the boy around, and led him out of the lake and up the path back to the hut. Still not a word was spoken. The old African sat again in his creaky chair and rocked to and fro. After several thought-provoking minutes, he looked into the boy's questioning eyes and asked, "Young man, when you were in the lake, underwater, what was it that you desired most?" Openly excited, the boy replied, "Why, you old fool, I wanted to breathe." Then the sage spoke these words, "My son, when you want happiness and success in life as badly as you wanted to breathe, you will have found the secret." This tale provides an excellent analogy. What is it that you desire more than anything else? When you pursue your objective with the same state of mind, so clearly described in the above tale, then you will reach your goal. The desire for financial gain often lifts men and women of average ability into positions of great power. The desire for fame and fortune is easily discernible as the chief motivating force of leaders in every walk of life. Look around at the successful men and women in any line of work, and you will see embedded a deeply developed desire. Their white heat intensity and fierce craving would tolerate nothing less than the attainment of their major purpose. Many people go through life looking for favorable breaks. Perhaps the biggest break anyone could ever receive is to decide exactly what it is he or she wants, and then become obsessed with obtaining it. Study the key ingredient in the following success stories. By now, you should be in a position to extract principles from specific illustrations so that you can relate, assimilate, and apply them. Wally Amos was not always famous, but he possessed the desire to attract both fame and fortune. As a young boy, he lived with his aunt in New York, who introduced him to her special chocolate chip recipe. With little direction, he dropped out of high school and joined the Air Force. 4 years later, he returned to New York and worked in a department store. A positive outlook and hard work helped him advance from stock clerk to supply manager. Amos carried the same skills over to the William Morris Agency, where he worked as a talent agent. But Amos demanded more from life. So in 1975, infused with spirit, enthusiasm, and desire, and possessing neither a high school diploma nor sufficient capital, the famous Amos chocolate chip cookie story began. The company that bears his name has since expanded throughout the nation and is now a well-known recipe for success. Edward W. Brooke desired a seat in Congress, in spite of his glaring differences, a Protestant in a predominantly Catholic district and a Republican in a heavily Democratic Boston. Brooke nevertheless became, in 1966, the first and only black since 1881 to win membership in the United States Senate. Several years ago, George Halsey tried desperately to supplement his income. His salary as an insurance claims adjuster barely covered his family's living expenses. So when a young Amway distributor in Greensboro, North Carolina, convinced him to become involved, Halsey already possessed a fervent desire to succeed. Amway provided me with an opportunity and a product, said the super salesman, but George Halsey provided the rest. And what was the rest? Some of the ingredients you've heard before: hard work, persistence, determination. But the most important was desire. Without a burning desire, Halsey would not have reached his goal. Oblivious to anything but success, Halsey marched door to door selling cleaning products that enabled him to retire as a young man with millions. Leontine Price was filled with a desire to sing in the great opera halls of the world. At age 5, she received a toy piano for Christmas. Several years later, her mother took her to see Marian Anderson, the first black soloist to sing at the New York Metropolitan Opera House, who electrified her audience with a pulse-pounding performance. It was a magic moment. A single spark mushroomed into flames. Leontine would later tell her mother, "I know my life's purpose. I want to sing." This exposure furnished Leontine with musical sense of direction that would propel her from rural Mississippi to the Met, and neither the lack of money, training, nor contacts would bind her. The seventh black artist to make a Metropolitan Opera debut, she was the first to achieve worldwide status as a prima donna assoluta. In a career spanning more than a quarter century, Leontine Price has garnered many honors, including 18 Grammy Awards and the Presidential Medal of Freedom. To this day, she proclaims, "I love nothing more than to hear my own voice." It's a personal adoration. Singing is the most important thing. Gwendolyn Brooks cannot recall when she did not want to be a poet. Suffused with an intense desire, Brooks became the first of her race to be awarded the Pulitzer Prize. At 15, already an accomplished author, she wrote to her idol, James Weldon Johnson, who inspired her immensely. He was quite kind, Brooks remembered. He returned my poems with editorial comments and little assurances. He praised my talents and hoped that I would continue to write. Though my parents were delighted with this sort of attention, I would have gone on writing no matter what anyone said. I had to be a poet. Her first book, A Street in Bronzeville, published in 1945, was a huge success. She went on to earn many awards, including a Pulitzer Prize in 1950. In 1968, Gwendolyn Brooks was named Poet Laureate of the state of Illinois. Thurgood Marshall, though barred from many law schools because of his race, focused exclusively on making an impact in the courtrooms of America. After graduating with honors from a Baltimore, Maryland high school, Marshall attended Lincoln University in Pennsylvania, earning his tuition as a grocery store clerk and waiter. Despite a constricting schedule, he still found the time to join the school's debating team, fine-tuning the skills that would serve him well as one of the nation's top lawyers. In 1933, after earning a law degree from Howard University, he was admitted to the Maryland State Bar. He quickly developed a reputation for civil rights cases and was in high demand. In 1954, Marshall was ushered onto center stage while acting as special counsel for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP. He argued successfully before the Supreme Court that racial segregation in the public schools was unconstitutional. In addition to this precedent-setting case, he presented 32 other cases before the nation's highest court, winning 29 of them. In 1967, then-President Lyndon B. Johnson elevated Marshall to Supreme Court Justice, the first black to hold such a position. The son of a waiter, he nearly single-handedly forced the nation to come to grips with its commitment to freedom. In a rare interview, he told a reporter that blacks must earn their way to higher achievement. And how does one earn anything? Through perseverance, hard work, and desire. To those familiar with track and field, her name is synonymous with speed. In the 1988 Olympics in Seoul, Korea, she won 3 gold medals, earning the title of the world's fastest woman. With her cover girl looks, her style and grace, her name has also been synonymous with success. All of her life, Florence Griffith Joyner simply has desired to be the best, but it hasn't been easy. As a 7-year-old reared in the projects of Watts, California, Florence competed with 10 older siblings to divert her from the temptations of the streets, drugs, crime, and gangs. Her mother enrolled her in a summer youth program. It was Florence's first exposure to organized sports, and the attraction to the track events seemed natural. Florence quickly found that she could beat most boys in the 100 and 200 meter sprints with little effort or training. But that changed by 1984. Crestfallen and demoralized, Florence used a second-place finish in the 200 meters in the 1984 Olympics as a springboard to a stronger effort. Second place wasn't good enough, she said without blinking an eye. I had decided that I was going for 3 gold medals in the 88 games, and I knew what it would take to reach my goal. What did it take? Let's count the cost. It took discipline, determination, and sheer desire that she meticulously adhered to a rigorous training regimen. Every morning she would run at sunrise before going to work at a neighboring bank. Her afternoons were filled with even more sprints, followed by stretching, strength exercises, and weight training. And if that wasn't enough, when funds got low, she squeezed more hours into an already hectic schedule by moonlighting as a cosmetologist at area beauty salons. Day after day, month after month, she maintained this grueling routine for 4 years. Was it worth the effort? No question. At the Seoul Olympics, it all came together as FloJo, as she is affectionately called, turned in 3 breathtaking performances by breezing to easy victories in the 100 and 200 meter dashes, as well as the 100 meter relay, setting world records in each. The ladder of success is never crowded at the top, she says ecstatically. To be a winner in any field takes hard work, discipline, and desire. In 1933, H. Naylor Fitzhugh became one of the first black Americans to be awarded a master's degree in business administration from Harvard University. A year later, he joined the faculty of Howard University and for more than 30 years has mentored hundreds of black business students. Revered by corporate America as a marketing genius, Fitzhugh has had enough accomplishments in his lifetime for 2 or 3 similarly gifted men. The bedrock of Fitzhugh's personal credo was instilled during his childhood. He was raised by parents who imparted an unwavering aim for success. Though my father never completed grammar school, Fitzhugh said, he made me want to succeed, no matter what the undertaking, whether it was collecting newspapers, hauling coal, or pursuing graduate studies at Harvard. I had to perform. It was this want to and had to that has paid great dividends throughout his life. In 1960, during spring training in St. Petersburg, Florida, Bill White was fed up with the unwritten rule that forced black baseball players to find housing among local black families, while their white teammates enjoyed luxury hotels. Disregarding the risk that came with being outspoken, he stood up in the Cardinal clubhouse and vehemently protested to St. Louis management the discriminatory practices. As a result, the team moved its training facilities to an adjacent city. 43 years after Jackie Robinson broke baseball's color line, Bill White again overcame years of mounting frustration when he was named the sport's National League president. Was it a definite purpose or a personal goal? Probably not. I make note of this example for other reasons. Though White did not seek the position, former baseball commissioner Peter Ueberroth emphatically stated, Bill White was hired because he was the best man for the job. Throughout his career, Bill always desired to be the best. In this race for success, you should be encouraged to know that our changing world is demanding new services, new methods, and new leaders. In order to fulfill this demand for new and better ideas, you must possess a definite purpose, knowing exactly what it is you want, and a burning desire to possess it. Marva Collins simply desired to teach. She began where she stood to put her dreams into action. Soon after she founded Chicago's West Side Preparatory School in 1975, her ability to transform children who were labeled as retarded, troublesome, and truant into shining scholars made her a national celebrity. The media referred to her as a miracle worker and super teacher, but she is neither. In her own words, Marva promises her students, I will not let you fail. Because of her success, she was offered the opportunity to head many influential organizations, including the U.S. Secretary of Education, Superintendent of Los Angeles Schools, and Chicago School Board member, but turned them all down. Why? Because Marva simply desired to teach, and because of this insatiable desire, her accomplishments captured recognition from such institutions as the National Educational Association and the American Academy of Achievement, as well as other prestigious organizations. Marva Collins has demonstrated to an intellectually starving generation what reading can do, what love can do, but most importantly, what reading and love can do. If you are to achieve riches in your life, like those mentioned above, plant a strong, unquenchable desire into the fiber of your being. What other force on earth but desire could do as much? Millions of people struggle all the days of their lives with no stronger motive than to acquire the bare necessities, food, shelter, and clothing. Now and then someone will step out of the crowd and demand of himself and of the world more than a mere living. He motivates himself with desire and achieves fulfillment through action. What is it that you desire? What is it that will make you stand boldly and firmly, crying out, this I will have. It is my destiny, and I am going to possess it. As Robert Collier, author of The Secret of the Ages, has stipulated, unless you want a certain thing the worst way, and manifest that desire in the shape of a strong, impelling force, you will have no will with which to accomplish anything. You must not only want to do a thing, or to possess a thing, but you must want to, hard. You must want it as the hungry man wants bread, as the choking man wants air. And if you will but arouse in yourself this fierce, ardent, insatiable desire, you will set in operation one of nature's most potent mental forces. The miracle of motivation. Disraeli once wrote, action may not always bring happiness, but there is no happiness without action. Neither does action bring satisfaction. Even in those instances where action does not bring happiness, basically, You are presented with three decisions in life. Whom are you going to spend your life with? How are you going to spend your life? What are you going to live your life for? The answer to these questions will provide you with the key to the riches you seek. You will either drive yourself or be driven. Motivation will be the difference. The word motive is defined as that within the individual that incites him or her to act. It is the inner urge that produces specific results that can be learned and developed. In order for motivation to be effective, driving you toward your desire, it must be internalized. Until the incentive has been interpreted and accepted, motivation has no real power. Every thought you think, every act you take can be traced back to some definite motive or combination of motives. No one ever does anything without having been motivated to do it. You will need to develop a strong, positive approach to self-motivation if you are to be successful in your quest for achievement. There are 9 basic motives to which everyone responds, and which influence practically every human thought or deed. The 9 motives are love, financial gain, self-preservation, sex, power and fame, freedom, creativity, anger and revenge, and fear. Within this framework, you will find the roots of everything you do or refrain from doing. Though love and fear are poles apart, they remain the strongest of all our motives. The children know that somebody loves them. Sitting in an old rocker on the 3rd floor of a Harlem brownstone, Clara, Mother Hale, cradles a 3-month-old infant who has already fought a battle that has defeated many adults: drug addiction. Born prematurely to a mother who herself was an addict, the tiny baby once exhibited all the symptoms of heroin dependency. The small, frail-looking black woman remembers the day the child was brought to her center. He was always shaking, scratching himself, and crying, says Mother Hale, as she is affectionately called. We had to keep him covered up because he was always cold. The baby is just one of more than 600 children, black, white, and Hispanic, between the ages of 2 weeks and 3 years, who have overcome drug addiction through the care offered by the Hale House. Located in a 4-story converted apartment building on Harlem's west side, in the midst of the New York drug trade, the center was conceived by Clara Hale in 1969. The cure she continually employs is not based on miracles or medicine, but on the healing power of love and positive reinforcement. With soft, tender eyes, she says, the children know that somebody loves them. Born in Philadelphia, Clara Hale acknowledges that the loving care she received from her own mother provided the foundation for her work. At age 27, Mother Hale found herself a widow with 3 small children of her own to support. Searching for ways to raise her family, she began caring for her neighbors' children. Her home-based business was successful, except for one minor flaw. Many of the children became so attached to Mother Hale that they didn't want to go to their homes at the end of the day. Consequently, many of them boarded with her during the week and visited their parents on weekends. Over the next 30 years, Clara Hale raised more than 40 foster children in that 5-room brownstone on 146th Street. The majority went on to lead successful lives. I have cared for more than 600 addicted babies since we opened the center, she says softly. I hold them and rock them. They love you to tell them how great they are, how good they are. Somehow, even at a young age, they understand that. I tell my children being black does not stop you. You can stand on the corner and say, well, white people kept me back, and I can't do this. Not so. You can have anything you want if you make up your mind and you want it bad enough. As the founder and guiding spirit of this program, Clara Hale was cited as the true American hero by then President Ronald Reagan in his 1985 State of the Union address. Hundreds of infants and children have returned to health and to their rehabilitated parents after living and being loved under her gentle care. Love is man's greatest experience. It brings one into communication with that infinite source of all creation. Love makes all mankind akin. It clears out selfishness, greed, jealousy, hate, and envy. True wealth will never be found where love does not abide. The love to which I refer is the love typified by the Master, when he said, "And now abideth faith, hope, love, these three, but the greatest of these is love." Love, courtesy, and friendship are three priceless assets that cannot be purchased or bargained for. They must be given away before they become valid. Love is the one factor that draws a clear line between man and all other creatures on earth. It is the one factor that determines for each of us the space we will occupy in the hearts of our fellow men. It is the solid foundation upon which all of humanity is based. You can judge how well you are succeeding in this game of life by the number and quality of loving relationships you have engaged in. If a man is truly great, if he is worth his salt, he will love all mankind. There is only one thing that will attract love, and that is love. This love is the same love exhibited by Clara Hale and all those who have attained riches. It is the love that is the life-giving force, the spring of all action, a motive that triggers desire. It is the outward expression of the spiritual nature of man. The great minds of every age have recognized love as the eternal elixir that binds the heart wounds of mankind and makes men their brother's keepers. Yet Emerson held a vision of this kind of love when he wrote, "The magnanimous know very well that they who give time or money or shelter to the stranger, so it be done for love, and not for ostentation, do, as it were, put God under obligation to them. So perfect are the compensations of the universe. In some way, the time they seem to lose is redeemed, and the pains they take remunerate themselves. These men fan the flames of human love and raise the standard of civic virtue among mankind." The opposite of love is fear, the great paralyzer. What is more pitiful than a healthy, able-bodied, educated young man or woman whining about the hard times or the lack of opportunity in this land that is so packed with opportunities? In what other country or at what other time in human history were the times better or the chances for success greater? Hundreds of thousands, young and old alike, try to excuse themselves for their failure to achieve by saying that society or the system or racism is the cause for their lack of accomplishment. Chances are that the great numbers are bound and gagged by their own minds, held captive by the fear of failure. John H. Johnson, founder of Johnson's Publication, described this state of affairs best. Most people don't really believe in success. They feel helpless before they even begin. Whitey's not keeping blacks down. He's not keeping us from jobs or education. We have the power to make it in this society, and so we can't blame the system for everything. It is the fear of failure that gets into the way. Fear, the most powerful negative emotion, mirrors love, but in reverse. Instead of appealing to the constructive or life-giving forces, it appeals to the force of destruction. It becomes a god in itself, demanding endless painful sacrifices. People rarely admit that their lives of bitter privation may be founded on nothing more than constant fear, and yet it happens all around them. But not all fear is negative. Though man controls his own thinking, the Creator provided that he be capable of fear, because justified fear is a part of self-preservation. For example, one who meets a lion on the jungle path and has neither a weapon nor a means of defense is well advised to be fearful and to take measures towards his self-preservation. Likewise, the child who is taught to exercise caution before crossing the street is alerted to danger. In both circumstances, fear is positive. However, self-made fears can be the most damaging. Psychologists have discovered that we are equipped with only two fears at birth: the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. but man nonetheless remains paralyzed by many other forms of fear, among which the fear of failure emerges most prominent. Other forms of fear are the fear of poverty. The fear of poverty is the most destructive of all basic fears. Nothing brings man so much suffering and humiliation as poverty. Only those who have experienced lack and misery can understand its full meaning. This fear rears its ugly head within the generations of individuals who have known nothing but poverty. Fearing poverty, and with good reason, these people allow their wits to dull and cancel all initiative and desire. In the greatest nation in the world, a nation throbbing with opportunity, millions settle down to live in want. If you resent poverty and are determined to be rid of it, search and beware for signs of this fear. Fear of criticism. Have you any idea what the fear of criticism does to an individual? The fear of what people will say or think keeps many from developing and presenting ideas that would give them independence if acted upon. A person who is filled with this fear will shun his ideas lest he be rebuffed. Consequently, he loses his great gifts of imagination and creativity. The story of personal achievement is the story of those who refuse to give in to the unqualified they, and remain true to their hearts and their own uncompromising minds. We should be our most severe critic, honestly and objectively examining our own actions. What then can we fear in the criticism of others? Fear of dying. For thousands of years, men and women have been asked the question, where did I come from and where am I going? Heaven or hell? Paradise or damnation? Birth and death are necessary components of the overall plan of the universe, but people are nevertheless afraid of the afterlife. Recognize that eternity is not something that comes after death, but is a representation of time, limitless. Heaven and hell are not locations, but states of mind. Eternal life is the quality of life, well-ordered, stable, confident, and not a quantifiable description of our current being. Just the mere thought of it all coming to an end is enough to send thousands into a frenzy of fear of dying. Though no one knows what lies beyond this impenetrable door, there is nothing to fear from a circumstance that you cannot control. Being in full possession of your mind, you can free yourself of any and all fears. Granted, fear is a motive that can sufficiently arouse you to act and obtain that which you desire. But as you properly relate to life, you'll find that you no longer need such fears. Your mind has limitless power to make your desires come true. To bring a beneficial desire to reality, your mind must first function unhampered. The fear mentioned above has crippled the most highly developed minds and have dashed the hopes of the strongest desires. Fueling desire, how to stay motivated at all times. Remember, anything you fear and dwell upon will manifest in your life. Poverty, ill health, criticism, or love. There is nothing more important than learning the art of keeping your mind focused upon the things, conditions, and circumstances of life that you really want. Here are 10 essential elements that will fuel your motivation. Number 1, develop the right mental attitude. Number 2, aspire to something greater than yourself. Develop a magnificent obsession. Number 3, possess a futuristic outlook. Take a long-range view. Release the past. Number 4, develop deep personal integrity. Be someone you can admire. Number 5, accept total personal responsibility. Remain in complete control at all times. Do not be manipulated by people or events. Operate on a personal timetable. Number 6, edify and affirm others. Remember, nothing is greater than love. Number 7, be grateful, not critical. Develop a gratitude attitude. Number 8, select your friends with care. Minimize people dependency. If you dominate your associates, there is no way for you to expand or grow. Number 9. Do it now. Decide what habits or changes you wish to alter in your life. Make those changes and never let an exception occur. Number 10. Look for mentors. Mentors who are larger than life, expand us. Mentors in different fields broaden us, and deceased mentors inspire. None of these 10 elements regarding motivation calls for any formal education or great sacrifice. Each can be verified for its soundness by anyone who understands the power of self-motivation as it relates to achieving a worthy goal, a worthy destination. It is almost impossible to pick up a newspaper without reading of someone who has achieved great success. Almost invariably, these profiles include the overcoming of what at one time appeared to be virtually insurmountable odds. For example, the boy whose legs were terribly burned and who seemed destined to face life as a cripple became one of the world's outstanding runners. The poor fatherless child who amasses a fortune. The youth with disabling speech impediment and poor self-image who becomes one of the nation's most prolific public speakers. Every day a new and dramatic story appears. This is the same tale of obstacles overcome and standing success achieved. But how are these feats accomplished? These individuals are faced with great barriers and seemingly are blessed with few resources. Nevertheless, they overcome their obstacles and rise above their difficulties. How did they do it? It is more than a matter of how. You must ask the question, why did they do it? If fully understood, the answer will bring you the riches you desire. Simply put, they had a goal. That is, they had fixed in their minds a point they had to reach. Something that was more important, far more important, than the effort and time that had to be expended. A dream seen only in the mind and felt only in the heart that was too big to be denied. A dream that appeared before their eyes when they awakened in the morning and was glued to their lips as they dropped off to sleep at night. This grand vision, this surging dynamic that is invisible to all the world except the person who holds it, is responsible for every great advance of mankind. It is the cause for everything we see in the world around us. Every manifestation in the world is a dream come true. It is a goal reached. It is the skyscraper, the bridge spanning the river, a shuttle to outer space. It is the little corner grocery store. It is the lovely home in the suburbs. It is the young man or woman receiving a diploma, a mother holding a baby in her arms, a golf handicap, a job promotion come true. You name it. Do you know what this means to you and me? Once the point is understood, life becomes easier, more fun, far more exciting. Do you know what this means to you and me? Once the point is understood, life becomes easier, more fun, far more exciting, and incalculably more rewarding. Let me explain. In order to fully understand this idea, you must realize what lies at the very core of achievement. One of the most comprehensive definitions of success was offered by radio announcer and worldly philosopher Earl Nightingale. More than 20 years ago, Nightingale stated that success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. If you think about it for a moment, you will realize just how perfect his definition is. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. What does this mean? It means that any person engaged in achieving anything that he or she considers a worthy ideal is successful. At the same time, it means that anyone not so engaged must be moving toward the opposite of success, failure. Anyone possessing a dream in his heart, which he or she has established as a worthy goal, and who is moving toward the attainment of that dream, is successful. It has nothing to do with money necessarily, unless that happens to be the goal. And each of us must decide for himself or herself what our goal is. Successful is the person who says, I'm going to become this, and works towards that goal. A success is the school teacher who's teaching school because that's what he or she wanted to do. A success is a woman who is the wife and mother because she wanted to become a wife and mother and is doing a good job of it. A success is the man who operates a corner gas station because that is his dream. That's what he wanted to do. A success is the successful salesman who wanted to become a top-notch salesman and grow and build with his or her organization. A success is anyone who has a deliberately predetermined goal because that's what he decided upon deliberately. With such a simple and clear definition as this, you might think that everyone is successful. Everyone should be. Unfortunately, however, it has been estimated that only 5% are. The top 5%. To further his argument, Nightingale also developed what he called the top 5% theory, which was equally as insightful. In practical terms, his theory is more fact than conjecture. Nightingale explains, if you approach 100 men and women of equal education, equal skills, equal background at age 25 and ask if they would like to be wealthy in the field of their choice, you'll notice a sparkle in their eyes, an eagerness toward life, and a keenness in their manner, for they truly wish to be rich. Now project these same individuals 40 years into the future, allowing for time, growth, experience, and opportunity. At the end of those 40 years, with the chance to be great in one of the fields of their choice, the richest nation the richest nation on the face of the earth, only one will be rich. 4 will be financially independent, 30 will be dead, and 65 will be forced to rely on any number of government programs in order to survive the remaining years of their lives. Think for a moment of those whom you pass on the street, no matter how large or small the city, no matter its location, and regardless of the race or creed of its inhabitants. Only 5 out of 100 people will achieve their financial goals. Only 5%. And what of the other 95%? Unfortunately, they just drift along, hoping and wishing that something positive will turn up, or at least that nothing negative will. These are able-bodied men and women who've allowed the winds of circumstance to blow them in any direction. Why in this land of plenty is there such a disheartening ending to so many lives? What has happened to the sparkle in their eyes and their eagerness towards life? What became of their hopes, their dreams, and their plans? Rollo May, the distinguished psychiatrist and author of Man's Search for Himself, explains the psychological origin of this question. May regretfully says, man simply conforms. Many people feel they are powerless to do anything effective with their lives. It takes courage to break out of the settled mold, but most find conformity more comfortable. This is why the opposite of courage in our society is not cowardice, it's conformity. One thing you must put aside in order to fulfill your destiny is conformity. We all conform in hundreds of ways, even those of us who feel we have traveled on our own separate paths, who have lived more or less as free and independent spirits, are conformists to some extent. But you must realize the ways in which you should not conform. You should not lead your life according to the dictates and mandates of others. Conforming to the whims and standards of others is insidious and dangerous. There is a human tendency, no doubt, acquired and strengthened in childhood, to believe that whatever people in significant numbers are doing must be correct, or so many would not be doing it. We live in a society in which popularity is confused with superiority or excellence. For example, the most popular consumer brands are not necessarily the best consumer brands. American-made cars and clothing are heavily advertised and therefore are most popular. But the truth of the matter is, the great majority of people seldom enjoy the best of anything, clothes, cars, cuisine, or lifestyle. The best is never the most popular. You must find your own unique pathway in the world. The masses or majority never do. Until you set the tone for your existence, you will follow others, who are, in turn, following you. As you continue your trek to greatness, you must remember this. If you do the exact opposite of what everyone else is doing, you'll probably avoid one of life's most costly mistakes: goals. Now, why don't more people set goals? This question has been raised and argued for decades. Basically, there are four reasons: a failure to realize the importance of goals, an inability to set goals, a fear of rejection, a fear of failure. Dr. Benjamin E. Mays, scholar, educator, and president emeritus of Morehouse College, puts it more succinctly. It must be borne in mind that the tragedy of life doesn't lie in not reaching your goal. The tragedy lies in having no goal to reach. It isn't calamity to die with dreams unfulfilled, but it is a calamity to not dream. It is not a disaster to be unable to capture your ideal, but it is a disaster to have no ideal to capture. It is not a disgrace not to reach the stars, but it is a disgrace to have no stars to reach for. Not failure, but low aim is sin. If you were to compare human beings with ships, the following scenario might prove a revealing analogy. It has been estimated by researchers that nearly 95% of the current population can be compared to a ship without a rudder, subject to every shift of wind and tide. They are helplessly adrift, and while they fondly hope that they will one day venture into a rich and prosperous port, you and I know that for every narrow harbor entrance, there's 1,000 miles of rocky coastline. Their chances of just drifting into a safe port are 1,001 against them. However, the 5% who have taken the time and discipline to decide on a destination and chart a course sail straight and far across the deep oceans of the world, reaching one port after another and accomplishing more in a few short years than a majority will accomplish in a lifetime. If you should visit a ship in port, climb to the navigation bridge and ask the captain his next port of call. He will answer you in one sentence. Every person should be able to do the same. Unless you can say in one concise, well-defined sentence what your goal or definite purpose happens to be, chances are good that you have never clearly defined your goal. The ship's captain cannot see his destination for fully 99% of his journey, but he knows what it is, where it is, and that he will reach it if he keeps doing certain things a certain way each day. When you ask most people what it is they seek, they'll respond in vague, unrealistic terms. They may say happiness, or good health, or money. These are not goals. They are simply conditions desired by everyone. When we speak of goals, we mean what is it that you want, you as an individual. What is it that you would like to have or be? If you can tell me what you want, I can tell you how to get it, as long as it's worthy, doesn't violate the laws of your fellow man, and is within the realm of human accomplishment. Progressing successfully through a lifetime should be a matter of routinely setting and achieving goals, one after another, each a little better than the former. Just as a ship sails to only one port at a time, set your first port of call. When you've reached your goal, and reach it you will, you can then set a new goal, and then another. By following this meaningful and common sense approach to life, you will be successful and accomplish more in a few short years than the great majority do in a lifetime. Walk to the beat of a different drummer. Henry David Thoreau wrote, "If a man does not keep pace with his companions, perhaps it is because he hears a different drummer." While most of us are not as insightful as Thoreau, each of us is unique. I may not be able to do what you do, or vice versa, but each of us has the ability to choose his particular way and style of life. You may choose to stay with the crowd that is content with mediocrity, those who say it can't be done, or no one in the past has ever done it, or you can follow the desires of your heart. You are free to strike off in a new personally chosen direction, unencumbered by the prejudices and opinions of others. There is a Chinese proverb that drives home this point. A man who says it cannot be done should not interrupt the man doing it. There will always be those who are ready to speak persuasively about the utter impossibilities of your achievement, or the minuscule chances of your success as you venture forth. Consider their words if you must, then proceed to go on your own way. Listen instead to the inner rhythms of the music within your soul. How's your aim? Realizing that without a goal we are unsuccessful, and realizing too that with a goal we will have direction and purpose, and that our goal will be reached, we begin to understand that setting of a clearly defined objective is the most important step that we could possibly take. Aristotle, the great philosopher, was asked one day by a young citizen, "How do you get to Mount Olympus?" To which Aristotle promptly replied, "By simply ensuring that each step you take is toward Mount Olympus." Mahatma Gandhi once instructed a fellow Hindu leader during their quest for Indian independence not to lose sight of his destination. "There will be many turnings along the way," Gandhi said. "It will be easy to get lost on attractive bypaths that lead nowhere. Resist deflections." It has been a constant source of bewilderment to watch the overwhelming majority of people drift aimlessly through life, without the slightest conception of the work for which they are best suited, and with no idea of even a need for a definite objective toward which to strive. This indeed is one of the tragedies of civilization. Clinical psychologist Harry E. Gunn, an expert in career counseling, notes that nearly 60% of all Americans say they are unhappy with their careers and that they would rather be in a different field of work. Napoleon Hill quotes an even higher figure. Hill insists that 98 out of every 100 people working for wages today are in the positions they hold because they lack definiteness of purpose to plan a specific course of action. Toward this end, goal setting is the master skill. It is a quality without which no one can attain riches or outstanding success. The man or woman on the move is the person who is intensely goal oriented. The man or woman who sets a goal is the mover and shaker in every area of human endeavor. It is through the practice of goal setting that one can compensate for life's shortcomings, whether those shortcomings be real, lack of money, limited schooling, or poor self-image, or imagined. The setting of goals and strict adherence to them will cause the window of opportunity to open in your life. How to set goals. Every successful individual follows in one form or another the same goal-setting techniques. Some follow it diligently. Those who stand at the threshold of achievement have utilized goal setting on a regular basis. You must do the same. Follow these instructions to the letter. Comply with them in good faith, and remember that by doing so you are duplicating the procedure used by many of the greatest leaders this nation has ever produced. With pad and pencil, settle into a place where you feel comfortable, a favorite desk or chair, somewhere you feel creative. Plan to spend the next 60 minutes definitely defining exactly what it is you expect to be, to do, or to create. It could very well be the most valuable 60 minutes of your life. First, write down a clear, concise statement of what you want most in life. This could be reaching a certain salary level, gaining a promotion in your present line of work, or starting your own business. Write what you wish, but you must be specific. Second, outline your plan of achieving this major goal. The plan need not be long. In fact, the opposite is probably true. The shorter your plan, the more likely it is to focus on major issues. Just as a ship can reach only one port at a time, you can achieve only one goal at a time. Most of the confusion and indecision found within the majority of people can be traced to one of two obvious sources. Either they haven't decided on a specific goal, or they have dispersed their efforts and as a result accomplished little at all. Third, set a definite timetable for achieving your goal. Remember, major goals are seldom reached in a giant step. Your plan should include all interim steps necessary to reach the top. Fourth, memorize your chief aim and your plan. Repeat them several times a day, almost like a prayer, ending with an expression of gratitude for having received what your plan calls for. By so doing, you will be forcing your major purpose into your subconscious mind, from which will come the steps you need, as you need them, for its accomplishment. Most importantly, put your plan into action. Plans and goals are vital, essential, really, but they are wasted without action. You must take the necessary steps to implement your plans. How one man used this goal setting system. Thousands of people have applied this goal setting system for their own enrichment. Legend has it that this is the same system used by scientist and inventor George Washington Carver, who has been labeled the greatest agricultural scientist this country has ever produced. Carver, a former slave, is credited with single-handedly transforming the pattern of agriculture throughout the South. When I was a child, my owner saw what he considered to be a good business deal and immediately accepted. Dr. Carver often told visitors to his Tuskegee, Alabama laboratory. He traded me off for a horse. That may have been the best thing that ever happened to me, for in my new environment I managed to get much more schooling than I otherwise would have had. Maybe it was that trade that helped to prepare me to spend years studying sweet potatoes, peanuts, and soybeans. George Washington Carver was born in 1864 to slave parents on the Diamond Grove, Missouri farm of Moses Carver, whose name he bore. Carver's earliest recollections were the death of his father and the kidnapping of himself and his mother by slave traders in the last year of the Civil War. Though his mother was never heard from again, a racehorse valued at $300 was given in exchange for him. He was returned to Missouri to his master's plantation. 5 years later, when freed by the 13th Amendment, Carver faced all the disadvantages associated with poverty, race, and ignorance. He was 13 years old. With an insatiable thirst for knowledge, but no school to quench it, he borrowed an old spelling book and in effect became his own teacher. For 9 years he worked as a servant, laboring by day and studying by night, until he was financially able to attend Iowa State College. After graduating in 1894 with both bachelor's and master's degrees, he joined the school's faculty, specializing in agricultural research. Carver's students loved him. His wide knowledge of soils, minerals, birds, and flowers, and his love of nature made study under him a pleasure. In his greenhouse, he experimented with many types of plant crossings and graftings, and became known as the plant doctor. His botanical exploits were soon discovered by Booker T. Washington, who called Carver to his life's work at Tuskegee Institute. The Institute's 2,000-acre farm was in wretched condition. Much of the land had been depleted by years of growing cotton. Crop rotation to replenish essential minerals was unknown at the time. In the endless cycle, farmers simply cleared excess timberland and let the barren soil erode. Without vegetation, more and more topsoil washed away. Carver's methods were simple. He set out to achieve one goal: to improve the conditions of the soil. He knew that peanut and sweet potato plants drew their nourishment from the atmosphere and that they replaced nitrogen and other essential minerals that would fertilize the land. Unfortunately, there was no market for these products. Peanuts were considered useless. But Carver began to change things. He made flour, alcohol, vinegar, rubber, shoe blacking, and syrup from sweet potatoes, and dyes, stains, cheese, Worcestershire sauce, margarine, paints, facial cream, and a preparation used in the fight against infantile paralysis from peanuts. In all, he made 118 different items from sweet potatoes and found more than 300 uses for the peanut. By the time the United Peanut Association of America held its annual convention in Montgomery, Alabama in 1919, peanuts were second only to cotton as a cash crop. Although it comprised an $80 million industry, most of the peanut farmers didn't know that Carver had brought them prosperity. To them, he was just an eccentric old colored man who dabbled with plants. Nonetheless, one of the group insisted that they should learn as much as they could about their product. They invited Carver to attend their meeting to discuss his experiments. However, when he arrived at the hotel, the bellman wouldn't let him in because he was black. But Carver was accustomed to such indignities. He had come to the South to help a struggling country confront its agricultural problems. He promised himself he would bring credit to his race regardless of the sacrifices and personal humiliation. The peanut growers were so impressed with his discoveries that one association member invited him to Washington, D.C. to address Congress. Carver rode the train all night, sitting upright on a wooden bench in a segregated car designated colored only, to have the opportunity to present his findings to Congress. It was during this congressional testimony that Carver gave a clue as to his ability to uncover nature's secrets. He said, "Life requires thorough preparation. We must rid ourselves of the idea that there's a shortcut to achievement. We must understand that education, after all, is nothing more than seeking and understanding the relations of one thing to another. First you must get an idea about a given thing. Then you must attempt to determine its cause." Carver used this system again and again to unlock nature's secrets. Many times he could be found in his laboratory concentrating on a single idea, determined to reach his goal before he would move on to his next objective. The goal-setting process that allowed George Washington Carver to ignore discrimination and work tirelessly toward the attainment of his goals earned him the respect of many of the great men of his day. For example, Thomas Edison sent an assistant to Tuskegee to persuade Carver to work in Edison's laboratory at a six-figure salary. Other offers followed. Henry Ford, Joseph Stalin, and Mahatma Gandhi considered Carver the world's greatest scientist, and each tried to lure him away. But his answer was always the same. He declined the offers, content to make his mark at Tuskegee. Emulate Dr. Carver. First, focus on a dream, an idea, a goal. Then concentrate your thoughts as often as possible on that particular objective. Create a mental image of your goal already having been attained. Be specific, don't generalize. If it is money that you desire, establish in your mind the exact amount. It is not sufficient merely to say, "I want plenty of money." Be definite as to the amount and set a time limit for earning it. If your goal is a beautiful home, get a picture of the exact home you wish to own, even if you have to pay an architect to draw the plans. Be very careful about what you set in mind and heart upon, for if you want it strongly enough, you will get it. I have spent a major portion of my life trying to figure out what separates the haves from the have-nots. Not just in a financial sense, although that's certainly an important part of success, but in all phases. I started searching for the answer while completing my doctoral requirements at Northwestern University. The answer I was looking for was the secret to achievement, the secret of success. Finally, I realized in the hundreds of lives I studied, in the countless books I read, a plain and simple truth had been staring me in the face all along. It is simply you become what you think about. You are at this very moment nothing more than the sum total of your thoughts. Similarly, you will be next year or even 5 years from now what you think about from this point onward. That's why establishing a goal is so vital to your success. Unless you think about the thing you wish to accomplish, your thinking will be erratic, confused, jumping from one whim to another, with the result of achieving nothing, arriving nowhere. By thinking every morning, each evening, and as many times during the day about the single most important goal you've set for yourself, you'll actually begin moving towards it. Concentrating your thoughts is like taking a river that is twisting and turning, meandering throughout the countryside, and putting it into a straight, smooth channel. Now it has power, direction, and speed. It is the same with your mind. Once you know where you're going, you'll know exactly why you get out of bed in the morning. You'll know why you're working and what you are working toward. And you'll know why it's important to do the very best work of which you are capable. You'll know why it's essential that you cut yourself away from the big, sluggish river of people who are drifting without purpose and direction, and cut the channel straight and clear to the dream that lies within your heart. The requirements for goal setting are simple. Goals must be conceivable, capable of being put into words. Goals must be believable, within the realm of possibility. Goals must be achievable, doable within your given strengths and abilities. Goals must be desirable, something you desperately want to accomplish. Goals must be just out of reach, but within your grasp. Aim high. Goals must be measurable. What gets measured gets done. Establish timetables for the completion of all goals. If you are unable to reach your goals in a specific time frame, simply reset the goal. Create a workable master plan. Describe precisely what you intend to give in return for the realization of that which you desire. Remember, there is no such thing as something for nothing. Describe clearly the plan through which you intend to reach your objective. Success demands a price that must be paid in advance in full. Put your goals into action every day. These instructions call for no effort that you can't easily put forth. They make no demands on your time or ability with which the average person could not comply. Decide now that it is you. Decide now what it is you want from life and what you plan to give in return. Decide where you are going and how you're going to get there. And then start from where you are. Get into action. There is no road to riches, but through a clear, strong purpose. Nothing can take its place. A purpose underlies character, culture, position, attainment of every sort. Decide on your goal. Insist upon it. If the thing you wish to do is right, and you believe in it, go ahead and do it. Chase your dream and never mind what they say if you meet with temporary defeat. There is a difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it. No one is ready for a thing until he believes he can acquire it. The state of mind must be belief, not a mere hope or wish. There is nothing, right or wrong, that belief plus burning desire cannot bring to pass. For the next 30 days, review the goals that you specified in step 1 of the goal setting process. Read your goals every morning, evening, and as many times during the day as you can. Force your goals into your subconscious mind. See yourself as already having attained them. Do this without fail every day for 30 days, and it will become a habit that will lead you from one success to another all the days of your life. For this is the lodestone of riches. You are now and you will become in the future what you think about.